This to me is one of those scotches where if somebody was like, so what's scotch exactly? And you pour them this.
What is up, everybody?
Hey guys.
It is Scotch for Dummies.
4 guys in the Scotch journey to help you with your next Scotch purchase.
It could be, might be Daftmill.
Who knows?
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky.
If you can find it, it's out there. You can find it. It's available, but it's just not in most common liquor stores or on most shelves. But it's available.
It's a cool story, right?
So what do we have here? This is Daftmill 2009 summer
Release. Yeah. So they're a really small distillery. They're a farm. That's what they do. That's their day job. They're a farm. They actually grow all their barley. They take it to a malting house about an hour away from them, get it malted, bring it back, and they use that barley to make their whiskey. They only distill twice a year, in the summer and the winter, when the farm is not operational. So it's really a very traditional, old school Scottish distillery.
They didn't have enough stuff to do.
Right. If you know anything about farming, right? So they're really only producing about 100 casks of whiskey a year, which is pretty small output.
Pretty small.
So they opened their doors in 2005. They don't really bottle anything under 10 years. That's kind of pretty much the standard that you'll see, 10, 11, 12 years.
Yep.
So this is the 2009, distilled in 2009, bottled in 20.
About 200-ish online, if you can find it, and it's 46?
46% ABV, absolutely. And there was one other note to say about that. So there's a summer release and a winter release per year. If you look anywhere between 600 bottles to sometimes 6,000 bottles, depends on what the run was. But if you do the math, they're only really making about 23,000 bottles a year.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure when we bought this, we bought it at downtown. It was under $200 then. So it's obviously gone up because it's harder to find, right?
Correct, yeah.
But
Well, because of the smallness of it and the limited releasing of it, it's obviously a premium, right?
So let's see if it's worth it.
Let's check it out.
let's check out the nose.
What do we know about their grain? Is it their grain?
Optic-
It does say
Optic
it, but-
barley.
Okay, so I'm getting a lot of that barley nose.
Lots of honey, right? Lots of honey on the nose.
And
Multi.
did you guys say what the casking was on this?
Ex-bourbon or oak is what it says. All it says is matured in oak barrels, but online it said ex-bourbon and Oloroso.
Oloroso.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Because it does have a hint of like a sherry note to it.
A
Yeah.
little sweeter than a normal bourbon barrel.
Very pleasant.
I don't know
Light nose.
Yeah, it is.
if it says anything about natural color or non-chill filter.
Well, what are you going to do?
So here, let's get into the deets. The 5 sherry and bourbon casks that make up this bottling were distilled and filled in June and July of 2009. So there you go.
Okay.
5 sherry and bourbon casks made up this run.
Okay.
I'm getting bananas in the nose, too.
Yeah, it's really, so it's definitely sweet, but not heavy, not
tropical.
Yeah.
You should try it. It's good.
Are we on to the tasting?
Yeah.
All right.
I got tired of smelling the nose, and it smelled delicious. So the nose, like it had some floral qualities, but I also got a hint of that sherry, and that's what I'm getting on the palate also.
Very sherry.
Oh, that's nice.
But I get a sherry note.
I was going to say peach.
Like marshmallow, creamy, cherry.
I got peach cream. Peach cream ice cream.
Yeah. Lots of vanilla, too, there.
One other thing to note, we don't do a lot of these because there's not a lot to do, but this is a Lowland distillery.
Oh, it is,
So it
that's
is
right.
a Lowland region, which is something to make note of.
There's not a lot of them out there.
That's what I mean,
Not a
right?
lot.
You can only a handful.
I really appreciate the story of this, the farm to table and what they're doing, and especially they're trying to do the whole farming in between and still be able to distill what they're doing. It's pretty cool.
That's neat.
Okay, so I said, that peach and cream. I definitely get an earthiness on the nose as well. A lot of malt forward characteristic.
It's a big feeling scotch,
Correct.
right?
I was gonna say it's-
mouthfeel is good.
Yes.
The legs on it are intense. I mean, it's
It's viscous.
Yeah, that we were talking about something else earlier, but it's kind of like a steak and potatoes kind of whiskey. It's got the heaviness. It's got the classic malt, single malt palate with just body and character to it. I love it.
There's a richness on the palate, late palate, really finished, but there's also a cloyingness. It's a very dry whiskey as far as, that those wines that you take and your mouth feels dry after you swallow that I get a little bit of that down the
Little bit.
center of my tongue.
A little pepper too.
This to me is one of those scotches where if somebody was like, so what's scotch exactly? And you pour them this,
It's pretty-
right?
pretty
Like
good.
Right.
it's got a little bit of the vanillas from the ex bourbon.
Yep.
It's got a little bit of the sherry. It's got a really nice malty flavor. It's got a little bit of the floral.
Yeah, I mean that's that finish on it is classic of a single malt, where it's just kind of it's not like the sweet corn. It just has a different palate that is kind of defined by that.
So I add some water to it. The nose is basically the same. I would say it's softened, maybe a little creamier on the nose with water.
Really?
Definitely creamier. Yep, less
Yep.
sweet, more like vanilla cream.
And I think it's bringing out more of that oak vanilla.
Water's nice. It doesn't hurt too bad. So I would say it softens. Maybe it makes it a little bit more rounder. You got to be careful, I think, with the ratio. But I think I did it just right. It's good. A little more malty, too, I would say.
I get a little fruitcake now, and it's definitely got a creaminess about
Yeah.
it. Not that it wasn't creamy before, but it's not quite as, I guess, big and bold. Like it's a little more approachable. It's kind of rounded off the edges a little bit. The finish is a little bit shorter with the water, though, which
Yeah.
I actually was kind of happy with the finish. Kind of went on for a little bit neat.
I
Yeah.
enjoyed the finishing. I'm not sure I like the finish here, but we'll see.
I'm not really getting the Oloroso that much, though. I think you are more than I am, based on what you just said.
I mean, I wouldn't call it like a heavily sherried
No.
whiskey, but it's got some of those hints.
For sure.
So it's more of a seasoning than it is
Yeah,
like
okay.
a full on. You know what I mean? But I get some of the hints of the Oloroso in here for sure. It's actually really nice, and now that the water's kind of sat for a little bit, a lot of the flavors are coming back. It's losing a little bit of the creaminess too. It's kind of reasserting itself.
All right, who's ready to go?
Not me.
Go for it.
Not ready yet.
I can go.
Go
I
for
never
it.
go first. All right. So, just initial takes on this whiskey. I would say, like I said before, it is a classic malt flavor profile. It's really got all of the things that I really enjoy in Scotch, except for peat. It's obviously missing that, but it's got a really nice. Sometimes you get lighter Scotches, and there's not enough backbone to them to like really get you a good finish or really hit you up front with a good flavor profile and let you know what it's about. You got to dig for it. And this, to me, the Scotch was like, well, here's everything I've
Right.
got going on, right? And you can take a look and see what you like. I don't think that it's necessarily overly complex, but what it has is really good and solid and put together. $200 price tag for it, but I kind of also think of it as like a boutique whiskey. So, it's kind of like supporting a local farm, right? Like they also do this whiskey and this is part of their farming operation, and it's kind of a nice thing to do. So I won't hold the price tag against them because it's not really what they do full time. So I'm going to give it a solid 3. It didn't have the complexity that I would need to give it a higher score, but I thought what it had was really good and well put together. The water didn't really hurt it at all. It's just a really nice put together Scotch. Who's ready? Mark, you ready?
Sure. This is the quintessential Scotch to me. I'm really in this zone right now, so it's hitting me because I've gone through these sherry phases, I've gone through these peat phases, and of late, I've just want a good core range Scotch. I want that middle of the road. I want to taste the distillate. I want to taste the malt, and I'm getting all of that. Definitely has backbone. It's definitely solid. It's robust. It's bold. It's out there. It's in front. No, it's not super complex, but I didn't expect it to be honest with you. Yes, the price is high, but when you're only producing 100 casks a year, the market is driving that price point because there's not many out there. So I'm not holding that against them. I'm really in love with this bottle. I really like this. This is really hitting the spot. I loved that peachy, creamy vanilla note that I got neat. It's thick, it's heavy in the glass, a little bit dry on neat, so I wasn't really thrilled about that. I don't think the water hurt it too much, but I'm actually giving this 3.5. I really like this. It's a good bottle. It's expensive, though, so I hear you on that. Don't beat me up for a 3.5 at $200, but I'm enjoying it in this moment.
You know, this is a weird Scotch for me because I've been swinging between a 2.5 and a 3.5 for this whiskey.
Talk it out.
The reason is it's a great representation of what you're discussing about that middle of the road, you know, classic Scotch. But it's not particularly complex. But when you really dig into it, it's really well done. So it's exquisite for its place in the whiskey category. Not complex, but well done. Balances of sweetness, of maltiness, of lightness, but a heavy palate. But it's not like, wow, that's like, it doesn't stand out to me as a standout whiskey until you really sit and analyze it. And most people aren't going to sit and analyze a whiskey as much as we kind of can do here. So I got to go with a 3 on it. It's really well done. It's not one of those things that somebody's going to sip it and going to go, wow, that's a whiskey. It's like, oh, that's a solid whiskey. So a 3, really well done in that category. I'm going to go with that.
I was going to look up something. I'm curious to say what's the current bottles going for? Does anybody know?
Oh, no.
No clue.
I'm curious. That's the hardest thing I have with this is the price.
I
Yes,
agree.
yes, and yes. You guys summed it up exactly right. I think we
Yeah.
talked about our flavors. It's not super complex. It is the heart of Scotch to all of us, I would say.
Yeah.
Delicious. I know we bought this probably over a year ago to review, and we just now got to it. And I'm curious how much it was back then. Other new bottles, you know, I can see why it's expensive because the story, what they're distilling, it's hard to find, and they're making good stuff. It's a small quantity, so it's kind of like FOMO a little bit,
Yeah, that's fair.
right? So the price, I'll give it a little bump of the price because of that.
All right.
But I'm gonna go 2.5, and I think if the price was lower, it would be a 3.5 for me. But I got to be fair with my normal ratings I've done in the past. I'm gonna knock it for price a little bit. I know it, but I feel my judgment is fair based on the FOMO and what they're doing. Absolutely love this bottle. Absolutely love the distillery. And I'm excited because I know they're getting ready to do another 10-year-old here next year. So it's going to be
All
good.
right.
There you go.
That works out
well,
to 3.
that works out. Well, math is easy.
3.0.
Yeah, math is
Roger that.
easy.
There you go.
Daftmill 2009 summer release. Check it out if you can.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.